Chapter 2382. You can't even speak properly. It's just that rare things are more valuable. It was rare for Chen Zhao to mock the handsome guy. The guy's face darkened and his eyes flashed. He was probably going to take revenge on Chen Zhao. How about it? Do you need it? If your subordinate needs it, I have a large demon army for you or him to command. We're so close. Shouldn't I help for free? Of course I can, but the army under my command can't be free. Every single one of them is an individual. I can command them to be loyal to me and fight for me, but I can't make them submit to others again. Moreover, going from hell to the human world requires a huge amount of power, and most of the sacrifices consumed in this sacrificial summoning are used to open the passage. What if they die? Chen Zhao asked. Do I need compensation? The guy rolled his eyes. Do you want it or not? Chen Zhao was in a difficult position. Sacrificial summoning was both expensive and cheap, but it was for others and not for him. It wasn't worth it no matter how he thought about it. But Toddy Belster was still working for him. Chen Zhao couldn't just ignore him. Fine. Help me make a summoning ritual. It'll be my reward for helping you catch the Titan snake. After thinking for a while, Chen Zhao finally agreed to the guy's suggestion. To be honest, Chen Zhao's demonic crystals and angelic crystals had already accumulated to an astronomical amount. Plus the wealth in hell, Chen Zhao was quite rich. Even if Toddy Belster spent it, it would take a long time to finish. Oh, will there be any side effects from this summoning? Also, will the summoned demons bite back at us? No, at least not with my ritual, the guy said confidently. The handsome young man said confidently. Every demon summoned by my magic array has absolute loyalty. That's good. That guy can't protect himself. Chen Zhao returned to the backyard. The underlings had already combed through the nearby grass. They ensured that nothing new would be left outside. At the same time, they invited the gift giver to their dining table. I'll eat it tonight. On the other side, Binance's ritual was almost complete. Take a look and see if there's anything wrong. Good talent. There's no mistake, the guy said. Uncle, it's done. Finally, Binance finished the last part and heaved a long sigh of relief. Take a look and see if it's correct. Not bad. Apart from the slightly inferior technique, there are no other mistakes. Binance looked at Chen Zhao in disdain. He was just being polite, but Chen Zhao really didn't care. Hehe, what do you mean by that look? Are you looking down on Uncle? Alright, I was going to give you a few high-end magic books, but I'll forget about it because of your gaze. Binance's eyes lit up. Uncle, what kind of magic book? Although Binance looked down on Chen Zhao's touring magic, Binance didn't think much of it. But Chen Zhao's strength was obvious. Moreover, it wouldn't be hard for him to get a high-level magic book. Come, put in a good word for Uncle. Uncle, you're the best. Be careful. Forget it. I want to see if this magic array is useful. Chen Zhao walked to the center of the magic array. At the same time, he looked at Binance. Step aside. After all, he still didn't know what effect this summoning magic array would produce. So he told Binance to stay away. This summoning magic array didn't need any incantations. The handsome guy probably knew that Chen Zhao couldn't remember it. All he had to do was pour his magic power into the magic array. Chen Zhao stood in the magic array, and immortal power was released from his body. As soon as it left his body, it was immediately absorbed by the magic array. The summoning magic array lit up, but it was only activation. It was far from activating it. If he wanted to activate the summoning magic array, he would need even more power. Chen Zhao estimated that people below the Shangqing state might not be able to activate this summoning magic array. Moreover, the difference in personal strength would also affect the magic array. For example, Chen Zhao's immortal power was compared to a regular spiritualist's magic power. For example, let's compare number 90 gasoline with number 93 gasoline. There was a 5% difference in energy consumption, and also a 5% difference in the consumption of the engine. The difference between immortal power and regular magic power wasn't as simple as 5%. As Chen Zhao poured his immortal power in, the summoning magic array grew brighter and brighter. Chen Zhao's immortal power was also continuously extracted. Just then, an inverted image of the magic array appeared above the summoning magic array. The upper and lower magic arrays resonated with each other. The two magic arrays emitted enormous energy at the same time. Instantly, a singularity opened in the upper and lower magic arrays. The singularity instantly expanded. The next moment, a ring appeared in the center of the magic arrays. The ring was engraved with indecipherable inscriptions. Chen Zhao raised his right arm, as if he had an epiphany. The ring landed on Chen Zhao's right wrist. It shrank instantly, and wrapped itself tightly around his wrist. At the same time, the magic array closed. The magic array carved on the ground was left with a scorch mark. The original patterns had disappeared. The entire process was both difficult and simple. There weren't any technical difficulties. Any spiritualist who had awakened could do it easily. However, that was the only difficulty. With enough magic power, an ordinary spiritualist would be sucked dry just by standing here. Chen Zhao retracted his arm and looked at the ring. The metal ring looked like an ornament. It was exquisite, but it didn't match Chen Zhao's style. But Chen Zhao couldn't take it off now. This thing would only activate itself when he encountered the Titan snake. Apart from affecting Chen Zhao's personal style, it didn't have any other effects. It wouldn't increase Chen Zhao's personal strength or compatibility. Chen Zhao muttered. This guy wasn't giving him any advantages at all. Uncle, is this a weapon from hell? It looks normal. What's its use? Binance walked up and looked at the metal ring on Chen Zhao's wrist. He was looking forward to Chen Zhao's live performance. What weapon? It's an ornament, hell style. How about it? Not bad, right? Binance rolled his eyes. Uncle, I'm not a kid. I'm already 7. Just then, Chen Zhao received another message on his phone. Chen Zhao glanced at his phone. It wasn't one message but two. One was about Turing's spell, while the other was about sacrificing the summoning magic array. Chapter 2383. Angel Coast. If one were to say that the most beautiful scenery here was not the beach and the scenery, it was the lifeguards. Recently, the coastal rescue team had received a large donation. Therefore, other than expanding the basic building and buying professional equipment, the team had also hired 10 more lifeguards. If they only relied on the original 12 lifeguards, the workload would be too much. Almost every member of the coastal rescue team had to continuously patrol and save people during working hours. With the addition of 10 new lifeguards, the pressure on the old lifeguards was relieved. The current arrangement was basically one new member and one old member in one group. There were 10 groups in total. They would patrol the 4-kilometer-long coastline every time. There were 5 groups each time. The other 5 groups would rest at the observation deck, or the headquarters. Igo, the vice captain, is called Feilai, right? Does she have a boyfriend? Feilai, I advise you not to do anything to her. Not only does she have a boyfriend, but she also has a child. I don't mind. Her boyfriend does, Igo said calmly. Also, I'm sure that you can't afford to offend her boyfriend. Money doesn't mean everything. Igo glanced at the boy who had just joined the team and left school not long ago. But having nothing means a lot of problems. Plus, I think you can't compare to Chun in any aspect. I believe I'm stronger than him, the new member said. 3 months ago, when he came to pick Feilai up, he encountered a group of hooligans nearby. Then the nearby police station received a report that he was robbed. However, when the police arrived, Chen was standing among the hooligans unharmed. He was even carrying a child in one hand, while the hooligans were all lying on the ground. There were 13 of them in total. After that incident, the hooligans completely disappeared from the area. He clearly didn't do it. He's carrying a child. There's no way he can beat 13 people. The hooligans' testimonies have been verified. He did it. This means that the guy has a serious tendency to be violent. Igo rolled his eyes. I hope this doesn't reach Feilai or Chen's ears, or you'll be in trouble. What? Will he beat me up? I'm not afraid of him. I don't know how to beat you up, but Chen has a large team of lawyers. Those 13 hooligans have already been sentenced to prison for attempted murder, kidnapping, robbery, illegally carrying dangerous weapons, and hiding drugs. Are you sure you want to go against Chen? The new member was shocked. Actually, I was just joking. Igor smiled and patted the shoulder of his new teammate. Good boy. Chen Zhao had a good relationship with the old team members. He would give them gifts every few days, or invite them to parties. He also donated a lot of money to the coastal rescue team, increasing their benefits and treatment. Occasionally, he would also help them with other trivial matters. For example, last time someone's family needed legal aid, and he was happy to help. Plus, he was nice to Feilai, so old members like Igor liked him a lot. However, some of the new members still thought that Feilai was pretty, so they set their sights on her. Igor and the other veteran members received Robio's orders to persuade the new members appropriately. Otherwise, these youngsters would do anything rash. Otherwise, the consequences would be severe. Robio might not know about Chen Zhao's background, but he knew that Chen Zhao was rich. If these people offended Feilai, getting beaten up would only be a light punishment. She might even disappear from the world. No one would know if she was alive or dead. Someone's drowning ahead. Hurry and save them. Igor suddenly noticed that there were people bobbing up and down in the sea. At this moment, a red figure rushed into the sea like a bolt of lightning. So she's a sprinting champion, right? Stop talking. Hurry and save them. Igor also charged out. Igor was already used to it. Feilai's sprinting and swimming speed could be described as terrifying. She completely surpassed the male members of the coastal rescue team. Sometimes he even wondered if rich people ate special tonics. As a female, Feilai's superhuman stamina made all the male members of the coastal rescue team feel ashamed. Of course, Feilai's stamina was exaggerated, but it was still acceptable. Igor could barely keep up with Feilai in front of him. The new member, on the other hand, was having a hard time. He had actually been on the school swimming team when he was in school. However, swimming in the sea was completely different from swimming in a pool. The ups and downs of the waves would bring about huge resistance and consume more stamina. Veterans like Igor and Feilai were already used to the ups and downs of the waves. They knew how to use the potential energy of the sea. That was why they swam faster, and also knew how to use the power of the waves. The new member, on the other hand, needed a long time to figure it out. That was why Feilai had already fished the drowning person out when the new member was only halfway there. However, Feilai had also used up most of her stamina. After putting on a life jacket for the drowning person, she swam back more than 10 meters. Igor came up to help. The two of them worked well together and pulled the drowning person to the shore. The new member didn't come up to help. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but that he couldn't. He could only follow behind Feilai and Igor. The new member returned to the shore and looked at Feilai and Igor, who were saving the drowning person. He put his hands on his hips and panted. So sorry. I couldn't help. Feilai and Igor ignored the new member and focused on saving the drowning person. Igor gave the drowning person mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. The drowning person vomited out some seawater, but he was still unconscious. Robio, I'm Feilai. 2. 1 kilometers west of the shore. We need first aid equipment and a stretcher. Just then, Feilai saw an octopus stuck to the drowning person's foot. The octopus must have attached itself to the drowning person's foot, causing the person's leg to cramp. Feilai patted the drowning person's calf and picked up the octopus. The octopus tentacles immediately wrapped around Feilai's palm. Feilai felt a slight prick on her palm. Then she saw her palm turn black. Immediately, Feilai felt her body go limp and she fell to the ground. Feilai, what's wrong? Don't move. It's poisonous. Help me inform Chen. Feilai's voice was weak, and she looked very weak. Do we need to inform Chen? Igor asked hesitantly. Most people knew that most octopuses had a tiny amount of paralysis toxin. It was mainly used to paralyze their prey. However, even a giant octopus's toxin had very little effect on the human body. However, this palm-sized octopus could actually make her feel weak all over. One must know that her body and resistance to poison were many times higher than a normal person's. This was why Feilai felt that this octopus was unusual. Chapter 2384. Chen Zhao hurried to the hospital. By then, Feilai had already been sent to the hospital. When Chen Zhao arrived, Robio, Igor, and the others were standing outside the door. Robio, where's Feilai? What's the situation? Chen Zhao asked anxiously. Feilai's in the emergency room, Robio said. He didn't know how to face Chen Zhao. After all, He'd promised Chen Zhao that he'd take good care of Fei Lai. But now something had happened. Of course, it was hard to say how serious the situation was. I'll go in and take a look. Chen Zhao pushed open the door. Seeing Chen Zhao come in, the doctor frowned. Get out! Get out! Ignoring the doctor's attitude, Chen Zhao walked toward Fei Lai. You're here. Fei Lai's voice was weak. Chen Zhao put down the suitcase and glanced at the doctor. Excuse me. You. I'm a doctor too. That doesn't mean you can come here and disturb my work. Chen Zhao waved his finger. At the same time, I'm rich too. Very rich, so I can. Then the emergency doctor made way for him. Clearly, he knew that going against the rich wasn't a wise choice. In fact, he would occasionally accept some part-time jobs, similar to Chen Zhao. Moreover, most of the patients he accepted were rich, so he knew the power and influence of the rich. Thank you. Please give us some peace and close the door. After chasing the doctor out, Chen Zhao's heart ached when he saw Fei Lai's swollen hand, which was 3 times its original size. There was also a round, fat octopus on it. You didn't take it off? Chen Zhao asked, frowning. I can't. It hurts when I pull, Fei Lai said. Really? What about now? It doesn't hurt now. The octopus's poison might have a numbing effect. As long as you don't pull it by force, it won't hurt too much. Chen Zhao looked at the octopus. It seemed to have a faint magical aura. Chen Zhao pinched the octopus's head. It was swollen, but it was empty. Chen Zhao took out a scalpel, planning to cut the octopus. Just then, the octopus suddenly reached out with a tentacle and grabbed Chen Zhao's right hand. Ha! The suckers on the tentacles quickly stuck to the back of his hand. At the same time, spikes extended from the sucker, trying to penetrate his skin. Unfortunately, the little octopus was helpless against Chen Zhao, who had thick skin and flesh. Chen Zhao used the scalpel to cut off the octopus's tentacles. But just then, Fei Lai suddenly felt dizzy. At the same time, the octopus's broken tentacles quickly grew back. He could feel that Fei Lai's life force was being absorbed by the octopus. Chen Zhao's expression changed. This thing really wasn't a natural creature. Chen Zhao cut open the octopus's head. In an instant, a wave of magic power that was neither strong nor weak gushed out of the hole in the giant head. The octopus also lost its life. It wriggled a few times and fell off the back of Fei Lai's hand. Chen, this is... I don't know what it is, but it's not a natural creature. At the same time, he took out a bottle of medicine made of demonic crystals. Drink this. I'll find something else for you later. This thing is a bit poisonous. After drinking the medicine, Fei Lai's complexion recovered a lot. However, she couldn't recover her lost life force in a short time. In fact, it was a permanent loss. Fei Lai wasn't injured either. The strange octopus had a bit of paralysis poison. This wasn't a big problem. Even with Fei Lai's own body, the poison would be eliminated in a few hours. After taking off the octopus, Fei Lai's hand was much less swollen. Let's go home first, Chen Zhao said. There's another person who drowned. He was also bitten by the octopus. Yes, most of his life force was probably sucked away, Chen Zhao said. After I make the medicine for you, I'll send some to him too. Okay. Fei Lai nodded. But before leaving, Chen Zhao quietly put away the octopus's stone. When they got home, the children all came to greet Fei Lai after learning that she was injured. Zhilin was crying her eyes out. She didn't know how serious Fei Lai's injury was. She just looked at Fei Lai's face and thought that it was very serious. Chen Zhao entered Blackie's alternate space. Blackie, help me see what this is. Chen Zhao tossed the octopus's stone before Blackie. Isn't this just a regular octopus? Blackie studied it for a long time but couldn't find anything. Octopus. Regular octopuses can suck people's life force? This thing can suck people's life force. Blackie was surprised. After studying it for a while, Blackie said in surprise, this thing should be an octopus, but it seems to have been affected by something and mutated, but not much. Are you sure it's an acquired mutation? Yes. This octopus's body is still an octopus. There's not much change. Blackie did research on biology every now and then, so he was more familiar with biology than Chen Zhao. Of course, Blackie couldn't kill directly, so Chen Zhao usually gave him dead creatures. Most of the time, Chen Zhao would bring some of his enemies to Blackie for research. To mutate a regular octopus into an unnatural creature, without a huge mutation, one possibility is that the person responsible for the modification is very skilled. Another possibility is that the modification process is compatible with the octopus's genes, just like how creatures of the same species can reproduce in nature. Maybe it's not a modification, but a reproduction. You mean someone or some unnatural creature reproduced with the octopus and gave birth to this octopus? That makes sense, but I'm not sure about the specifics. Everything is just my personal speculation. After leaving the alternate space, Chen Zhao suddenly received a call from West. President, something happened. Come quickly. What's wrong? A large number of supernatural creatures have appeared on the LA coastline. Dozens of people have been attacked. One is seriously injured and already dead. Supernatural creature. Is it an octopus? President, you know? Feilai was attacked too. That thing can suck people's life force, Chen Zhao said. I'll go now. Dozens of people had been attacked, and there were casualties. This was a serious incident in the supernatural world. The supernatural organization was responsible for this, so Chen Zhao didn't dare to delay. He immediately rushed to the organization. Chapter 2385. Chen Zhao hurried to the supernatural organization. Because of Feilai's encounter, Chen Zhao realized the severity of the matter. Feilai had her own treatment. Otherwise, she might not have ended up well. The octopus was extremely aggressive. Even though it was attached to a person, it was still very dangerous. It was fine if they were careful, but if they weren't careful, the healer might become the injured person being treated. After arriving at the headquarters, Chen Zhao found West. What's the situation now? An unknown octopus has been found on almost every beach along the Los Angeles coastline. This octopus seems to be particularly fond of attacking mammals. The first to discover the octopus was a couple. They were taking their dog for a walk on the beach, and then something happened to the dog. The wife found an octopus attached to the dog, so she used her hand to fiddle with it. As a result, the octopus slipped into the wife's hand, and the wife collapsed. The husband immediately called the police. The Los Angeles police also received about 20 similar reports in a very short period of time. They then reported it to the security department, and then the security department passed the information to us. The security department sent it to us. Chen Zhao was surprised. The counterterrorism department had never been on good terms with them. Why would they give the mission to them now? Didn't the counterterrorism department always give missions to the psionic team? After all, the psionic team was a direct subordinate of the counterterrorism department. They were their own children. Usually, missions given to the supernatural organization were too difficult for the psionic team to handle. Or maybe there was a trap waiting for the supernatural organization to jump in. You think it's a trap? No. West shook his head. Probably, because they don't have the energy to deal with this. Aren't they arranging the expedition to Bermuda? Plus, the psionic team probably can't do anything about it either. West paused. Then he looked at Chen Zhao. President, do you have a plan? If it's just the injured people, it's not a big problem. I can treat them, but what about afterwards? Since those mutated octopuses appeared along the coastline of LA, it means that there's more. With the supernatural organization and the counterterrorism department's authority, they can lock down the entire coastline for 3 to 5 days. But if they can't find the source, it'll be difficult. More than 20 people had been attacked in a day. This meant that there were a lot of these things. So they had to find the source. If they couldn't, it would be useless no matter how hard they worked. But how could they find clues? In that case, the Counterterrorism Security Department would be in charge of intelligence. The Supernatural Society has no intelligence system. But would the Anti-Terrorism Security Department honestly give them the information? This made Chen Zhao very suspicious. Don't tell me the purpose of the Anti-Terrorism Security Department is to charge us with incompetence and then dismiss us? They don't have the guts to do anything. This matter is not small. If this matter is not resolved, we will have to bear the consequences. Do you think they will feel better? At the end of the day, they were all subordinates and superiors. If this got out of hand, both departments would be in trouble. However, the Anti-Terrorism Security Department is made up of ordinary people. Although they have an intelligence department, it's difficult for them to get involved in matters of the supernatural world. So this time, it won't be just us. I'm guessing that the psionic team will also get involved. So we have to work together? Chen Zhao asked, narrowing his eyes. It might not be cooperation. We might just stab each other in the back, West said helplessly. Don't expect two enemies to love each other and help each other through the difficulties in the face of danger. It was more likely that they would fight to the death before settling the problem. This wasn't the right thing to do, but it was human nature. Let's not worry about the Anti-Terrorism Security Department and the psionic team. Let's talk about the clues we have now. No clues at the moment. West looked at Chen Zhao helplessly. Then gather our people. Let's discuss the specifics of the situation. Everyone went to the meeting room. Chen Zhao saw that Dongya Tianqi and Nagasaka Reiko had come in together. When Nagasaka Reiko entered the room, she immediately gave Chen Zhao a 90-degree bow. President, hello. This is my first time attending an official meeting. Please take care of me. Sitting in his seat, Chen Zhao covered his face and rubbed his forehead. Dongya Tianqi was rather awkward too. He pushed Nagasaka Reiko. Reiko, go sit down. Nagasaka Reiko was an unofficial member and also an international student at UCLA. So, she didn't come to the headquarters often. Moreover, she'd missed a few of the Supernatural Society's activities due to various reasons. She'd gone abroad to study with her family's mission, but she hadn't made any progress. So she was very discouraged. Luckily, she didn't miss it this time. She finally had a chance to show off her abilities. When West saw that almost everyone had arrived, he asked for everyone to quiet down before explaining the incident in detail. If any of you have any opinions, suggestions, or different opinions, you can speak now, Klaus said. At this moment, Klaus said, there's too little effective information at the moment. The first thing we need to confirm is the other party's motive. Regardless of whether these octopuses are the product of an individual or some organization, they must have a motive for releasing them. Is it purely to attack ordinary people? To create chaos? Or is there a deeper goal? Only the L.A. coastline? Nagasaka Reiko asked. Only the L.A. coastline so far, West said. Then we can ignore whether the subsequent incidents will spread. What we can confirm is that the source should be within L.A. or nearby waters, so the L.A. coastline happened first, Nagasaka Reiko said. We can investigate whether there are any related or similar research departments in L.A. and the surrounding areas. West nodded. Indeed, we can research in this area. An elite, Ruan Faxben said. Come with me to fish out some mutated octopuses. I want to study them. Sure. Although the situation was still developing, it was still under control. If they didn't solve it soon, it would soon go out of the anti-terrorism department's control. If similar incidents happen in other areas, report to me immediately, Chen Zhao said. President, do you know any researchers who study octopuses? Find one and ask. Chen Zhao thought about it. Should he ask Right? Chapter 2386. Hi, Right. Right looked up at Chen Zhao, who opened the office door. She was surprised. Chen Zhao hadn't come to school for almost 2 months. The school only gave him the title of professor. He didn't have a salary or a position. Chen, how come you're free to come to school today? Chen Zhao looked at Right resentfully. I'm a teacher here. Is it weird that I'm here? Right laughed coldly. Chen Zhao opened the fridge and took out a can of beer. Only Right had a fridge in the entire school. Only she would put beer in the fridge. Okay, I'm here to see you. Ha! What's with that look? Can't I come to see you? Tell me, what do you want? Chen Zhao chuckled. Other than that, I also want to ask you something. What is it? Does our school have a marine biology expert? Chen Zhao asked. Huh. Why are you asking? Are you planning to change your major to marine biology? No, just discussing academic issues, Chen Zhao said, chuckling. Right narrowed her eyes at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao's medical skills were very high, and he even had his own academic research. However, Chen Zhao definitely wasn't an academic. Right didn't believe that Chen Zhao would suddenly change his nature and go into academia. Why are you looking for a marine biology expert? Like I said, we're just discussing academic issues, Chen Zhao answered seriously. Wright stared at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao returned Wright's gaze with a cheeky grin. In the end, Wright couldn't get any more explanation from Chen Zhao's face. Okay, our school does have a marine biology expert, Nanston Chilla. But he's only in name. We provide the funding while he's in charge of research and sharing the results. How do you contact him? What do I get? I'll give the school an extra $1 million this year, Chen Zhao said. Only then did Wright nod in satisfaction. This is his name card. Take it. Hello, are you Professor Nanston Chilla? Who are you? Hello, I'm a professor from UCLA. Principal Wright gave me your contact details, Chen Zhao said. I heard from her that you specialize in marine biology? Yes, what's the matter? Hearing that Chen Zhao was a professor from UCLA, Nanston Kira's voice softened significantly. After all, he was a professor at UCLA in name, and received funding from the university. I have some questions about marine biology that I want to ask you. I wonder if Professor Nanston is free. I would like to visit you in person. Of course. When is it convenient for you? Anytime, as long as you're free. I need to conduct an experiment this afternoon. If it's convenient for you, come to my research institute at 7 in the evening, Nanston Killa said after some thought. All right, I'll be there on time. In the evening, after applying medicine for Fei Lai, Chen Zhao hurried out the door. Fei Lai's injuries weren't serious, and her constitution was much better than normal people's. With Chen Zhao's care, she was almost fully recovered. As for the lost vitality, Chen Zhao was still making potions. However, it wasn't a big problem. Chen Zhao had a lot of choices now. For example, the huge red eagle. It was a great lord-level undying bird. However, he couldn't use the parts from the undying bird directly. At least, he couldn't increase vitality with just one bite. After half an hour of driving, Chen Zhao arrived at the door of an oval-shaped building beside a river. Honk honk. Chen Zhao honked. A head popped out of the guard room. Hello, what's the matter? Is this the Marine Biology Research Institute? Yes. I have an appointment with Professor Nanston here at 7 o'clock. Please contact Professor Nanston. Okay, please wait. A while later, the guard let them in. A young man in a white coat stood at the door. Hello, are you Professor Chen? Hello, Professor Nanston, Chen Zhao said politely. You look much younger than I thought. Ah, I'm not Professor Nanston. I'm his student Isaac. Hello. Please follow me. Professor Nanston is waiting for you. Isaac led the way. After a few steps he said, Professor Chen, you're younger than I thought too. Ha, I just take good care of myself. Of course, yellow people look younger than white people of the same age. Professor Chen, what are you an expert in? I study medicine, Chen Zhao answered. Chen Zhao looked at the individual rooms along the way. The layout here was quite special. Part of it was below the horizon. The other side was the river. The walls were made of high-strength tempered glass. The research institute wasn't small. There were many people too. There were many researchers walking back and forth. There were also some huge aquarium tanks. There was even a very large aquarium tank with 2 white whales in it. A bearded man in a white coat was in front of the aquariums, recording data. Isaac pushed open the door and knocked on the glass. Professor Nanston. Nanston Killa turned to look at Chen Zhao at the door, slightly surprised. He'd already guessed Chen Zhao's identity. Of course, he was surprised at first because of Chen Zhao's skin color. Hello, Professor Chen. Welcome. Hello, Professor Nanston. The two shook hands. Chen Zhao looked at the aquarium before him. 2 white whales were swimming in it. If there is any animal in nature that is the most intelligent, it was definitely not a dog, nor was it a primate like an ape or a monkey. They were whales, especially white whales. It could be said to be the best in the entire natural world. Moreover, the white whale's food consisted of small and medium-sized fish. Therefore, they posed no threat to humans. However, it was also because of their position in the food chain and their docile nature. As a result, they were hunted and killed in large numbers. White whales could be found in most aquariums around the world. As long as the white whale was in contact with humans for a year, It would be able to understand most of the instructions given by humans. Their IQ was very high, almost equivalent to that of an 8-year-old human child. Nanston Killa noticed that Chen Zhao was staring at the white whale in the aquarium and smiled. Isn't it beautiful? Yes, they are indeed beautiful. They are like water spirits. If they weren't in the aquarium, they would be even more beautiful. Chapter 2387. Nansadunkara looked at Chen Zhao, a bit surprised. He didn't expect Chen Zhao to say something like this. Actually, when Chen Zhao said this, he was a bit disgusted by himself. But this was also because people were complicated. Even though he was doing the same thing, when he saw others do this, he would feel emotional. However, Nansadunkara treated Chen Zhao's emotional words as an animal protector. He also studied marine animals, so he naturally had a good impression of Chen Zhao. Mr. Chen, do you like animals? Kind of. Chen Zhao smiled. Should he use this to get close to him? I also have a few sharks, Chen Zhao said. A tiger shark and a few rat sharks. Huh. I thought you didn't like to keep marine animals in aquariums? I didn't say I kept them in an aquarium. I didn't say that I kept them in an aquarium. In fact, I have a private beach, and these sharks trespassed into my private waters. One time, I went fishing and threw in some raw meat, but it was eaten by those sharks. I was so angry that I kept throwing food at them, trying to catch them. But these guys were too cunning. They only ate the bait and never took the bait. Every time I went out to sea, I would fight with those sharks, and they seemed to have identified my boat. They would follow me every time, and after a while, we became familiar with each other. Once I accidentally fell off the boat, and they rushed towards me. At that time, I thought I was going to be eaten by the sharks, but the biggest of them, the tiger shark, held me on the surface of the sea and didn't eat me. From then on, I had a different impression of marine life. Later on, those sharks settled down near my private beach, and I often fed them. At first, I was more cautious, but gradually, I started to go into the water to play with them. Now, I'm very familiar with them. They have never attacked me, and will help me chase away unfamiliar sharks. They and I are already a family. Chen Zhao completely changed the process of getting to know the 5 tiger generals. He, Amon, and Little Nine had completely ignored the matter of them chasing after them. Nansadunkara's face was filled with disbelief. Can I see those sharks? Of course, Chen Zhao said. After all, he had a favor to ask now, so he couldn't reject Nansadunkara's request. Other than sharks, there's also a family of dolphins. Once, when I was walking on the beach, an adult dolphin was stranded. I sent it back into the sea. That dolphin and its family have been living on the beach ever since. They also got to know my shark friends. Unbelievable. I've never seen sharks and dolphins coexist peacefully, Nansadunkara said in amazement. Nanston Kira said in amazement. Their relationship is like that of natural enemies. Large sharks will attack dolphins, and groups of dolphins will also attack sharks. When is it convenient for me to see it? Nansadunkara studied marine life. Especially after knowing that Chen Zhao was rich, a super rich one at that. Isaac felt that it was best to help Chen Zhao find a way out. Don't worry. Every time I go into the sea, they'll find me. They can find my scent. That's right. Sharks have the sharpest sense of smell among marine animals. Even dozens of nautical miles away, they can smell some special scents. Isaac had no choice. He'd given Chen Zhao a way out. If he didn't, what else could he do? After going into the sea from the beach, Isaac felt that Chen Zhao's wealth had already exceeded his imagination. Should I suck up to him? Forget it. I'll think of a way to get closer to him later. Now that he was in the sea, the water was still a bit cold. After all, it was only a little more than a month. Chapter 2388. Isaac wasn't like Nanston Kira. Nanston Kira was purely a researcher. On the other hand, Isaac's education wasn't low, and his talent wasn't bad. However, he cared more about whether he could make a name for himself. He didn't become Nanston Kira's student and assistant to dedicate himself to science. What he wanted more was to be rewarded with fame and fortune. However, the research results of the Marine Biology Research Institute couldn't be turned into profits yet. While Nanston Kira was famous internationally, He didn't get any benefits as a student. Now he felt that Chen Zhao was a big tree, so he wanted to climb up. To put it bluntly, Isaac wanted to be Chen Zhao's lackey. However, Chen Zhao didn't seem to understand Isaac's passionate heart. After the three entered the sea, they slowly dived into the depths. Of course, the so-called depth was only a dozen meters. The heads of their diving suits all had searchlights, so they could see clearly within a certain range. Just then, a black shadow suddenly flashed before their eyes. Oh! Isaac was startled. The black shadow was fast, but it was definitely huge. Very, very huge. Just then, Chen Zhao swam before the two and made an okay gesture. Before they could understand, Isaac and Nance and Kira saw a terrifying figure appear behind Chen Zhao. It was a huge shark. Very big. The two were scared out of their wits. They frantically made hand gestures at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao actually knew what was behind him. Looking back, he reached out and hugged Old Guan's head. It was the second of the 5 tiger generals, Old Zhang. Because Chen Zhao had fed Old Guan something special, he was more than 8 meters tall now. Isaac and Nance and Kira watched Chen Zhao play with the giant before them. They were both dumbfounded. Tiger shark. However, this tiger shark was a little too big. Isaac found it even more unbelievable. Could humans really interact with sharks so intimately? Some divers would interact with sharks, but most of the time, they only interacted with small sharks. The largest sharks were only 1 or 2 meters. These sharks wouldn't hunt for medium or large prey. Therefore, they didn't pose much of a threat to humans and wouldn't attack them. That was why they seemed to be able to interact with humans. In fact, that was not the case at all. If they were to interact with tiger sharks, great white sharks, and so on, see if they don't bite them to death. At this moment, another gigantic figure appeared. A great white shark. Itzhak and Nancy Kira wet their pants again. The eldest of the 5 tiger generals, Old Guan, had arrived. Old Guan nudged Chen Zhao with his huge head, looking very intimate. Because he had been busy recently, Chen Zhao had people feed him on his behalf. So they missed him very much. Behind Old Guan were the 3 rat sharks. The 5 tiger generals had gathered. Nancy Kira was pleasantly surprised. On the other hand, Isaac's face was full of disbelief. Really? Do great white sharks and tiger sharks really coexist with mouse sharks? Great white sharks and tiger sharks were the most dangerous sharks. At the same time, they were also the sharks that injured people the most. Their diet also included rat sharks. But now they actually coexisted completely. This was truly incredible. However, regardless of whether it was great white sharks, tiger sharks, or mouse sharks, they all seemed to be much larger than normal sharks of the same species. Chen Zhao interacted with the 5 tiger generals for a while. Then he turned to Itzhak and Nancy, and gestured for them to come over and get to know the 5 tiger generals. But now both of them hesitated. Itzhak just wanted to escape back to the shore. At this moment, Nancy suddenly calmed down. He knew the danger of tiger sharks and great white sharks better than anyone else. They did not necessarily like to eat people, but they really liked to attack people. Chen Zhao shook his head and waved again, telling them that the 5 tiger generals were not in danger. Nancy Kira thought for a while. Finally, he carefully reached out and touched Old Guan's head. Old Guan pushed Nancy's palm away, swam 1 round, and returned to the original spot. He pushed Nancy's palm again. That feeling was similar to humans clapping hands with each other. Of course, sharks could not do such complicated movements. Moreover, their gills were special. They needed to swim continuously to breathe oxygen in the water. Nancy finally relaxed. It seemed that the 5 sharks really would not attack them. He started interacting with the other sharks one by one. Suddenly, Nancy, Chilla, and Isaac felt the water pressure behind them again. Turning their heads, they saw a white shadow pass by them at an extremely fast speed, charging directly at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao reached out and grabbed the figure. But he was dragged in the sea by the figure. Itzhak and Nancy could see Chen Zhao's searchlight go 1 round in the water, and then return. Dolphin. It was a bottlenose dolphin. That dolphin swam really fast. After taking Chen Zhao 1 round, the bottlenose dolphin returned to the original spot. Then it started pushing its mouth against Chen Zhao's, acting like a spoiled child. Chen Zhao had to reach out and keep comforting the dolphin. As for the surrounding sharks, They had no intention of attacking at all. Itzhak was shocked. Could sharks and dolphins really coexist? Just then another adult dolphin brought a few underage dolphins over. Only now did Itzhak believe what Chen Zhao had said earlier was true. After interacting with the 5 tiger generals and the dolphin family, Chen Zhao led Nancy and Itzhak to the surface of the sea. Nancy pulled down the respirator. While panting, she said excitedly, Really, it's unbelievable. I've never been so close to a great white shark and a tiger shark." Itzhak was still in shock. But thinking of the terrifying sharks in the water below them, Itzhak decided to return to the shore first. Isaac didn't tell Nancy Kira that he had a phobia of the abyss. Deep phobia was actually a great psychological fear when the bottom of the body could not be seen. The surface of the sea was the most common deep area. "Professor Nancy, let's go to the shore first." "Okay, too bad the oxygen tank is out of gas. Otherwise, I really want to continue interacting with those cute guys down there." Cute guys? Those guys weren't cute at all. They were all dangerous and deadly creatures. Zach thought silently in his heart. He only calmed down when he stepped on the beach. "Oh right, Professor Chen. Why are you looking for Professor Nancy? You didn't seem to say." Chapter 2389. Isaac brought this up on his own, mainly because he had the same thoughts as before. He had to please Chen Zhao. He usually couldn't come into contact with rich people. Now that he'd met one, he couldn't miss this opportunity. Oh, look at my memory. Only then did Nanston remember. Chen Zhao had come to consult him on academic issues. Nancy Kira had completely forgotten about it. His mind was filled with things like great white sharks, tiger sharks, rat sharks, and dolphins. "Oh, Professor Chen, you're a medical specialist, right? Why are you looking for an oceanographer like me?" Chen Zhao glanced at Nancy Kira, who also felt a bit embarrassed. Nanston's EQ was too low. He didn't know how to communicate at all. "It's like this. I recently accepted 2 patients. They were bitten by octopuses, and then seemed to have been poisoned. They're still unconscious." "Are you sure they were bitten by octopuses?" "Yes, I'm very sure. The octopus's toxin is very low, and it's a non-fatal paralysis toxin. Unless you catch a few hundred octopuses, extract all the toxin, and drink it in one go, it won't cause any harm to the human body." Nanston Kira's tone was very certain. After all, this was his professional knowledge. Most of the time, his words were the truth. "But they were indeed bitten by octopuses," Chen Zhao said. "Then they fainted." "That's too strange," Nanston murmured. "Are you sure they weren't attacked by other creatures before or at the time?" Nanston Chilla murmured. "It could also be a sea serpent, or it could be a cockroach." "Professor Nanston, I respect your professionalism, but please don't doubt my professionalism. I know the symptoms of sea snake venom, and I also know the symptoms of conchus, as well as their treatment methods. Before I came to you, I brought the octopus that attacked the 2 injured people to an expert for identification. No one seems to recognize this octopus. It seems like it's a new species, or it might have mutated under certain circumstances." Nanston wasn't angry because of Chen Zhao's rather radical tone. Instead, he paid attention to the latter part of Chen Zhao's sentence. A new species in mutation. Marine creatures often had mutations, but they were mostly single individuals. It was very rare to find group mutations. Since 2 people were attacked at the same time, it meant that this was not a single mutation. In order to understand more about the octopus toxin and the treatment plan, I brought the octopus to a professional organization for screening. Why didn't you send it to me immediately? I'm the most professional and authoritative marine biology expert. Nanston Kira's tone was a little arrogant with a hint of doubt. That's why I'm here now, isn't it? What about the octopus sample? Did you bring it? Is it alive? The samples are in that facility. I want to see a sample of this octopus. I'll send it over tomorrow. Why not now? Professor Nancy, do you think he's still working? My research institute is here. Isaac felt that if he didn't speak, he might anger Chen Zhao and ruin his plan. Professor Nancy, our research institute is different from other institutions. We can't use our standards to demand others. Nancy thought for a moment before nodding reluctantly. All right, but I still hope to see the sample tomorrow. If Professor Chen is busy, I'll be happy to help deliver it, Isaac said. Isaac said, Professor Chen, if it's convenient for you, could you leave your contact information? Okay, here's my phone number. Chen Zhao gave his number to Isaac. At the same time he said, Professor Nancy, I'd like to ask you a few questions. Yes, go ahead. With current technology, is it possible to modify other creatures? More accurately, can it modify mutated octopuses? Nancy and Kira thought for a moment. The vast majority of mutants are uncertain mutations that cannot be controlled or even determined. With the current technology, it can be modified to cause this creature to mutate. However, this kind of modification is also uncontrollable. However, the creature to be modified must first meet a few conditions. Its vitality is tenacious, some dominant genes are unstable, and recessive genes are stable. The octopus just happens to meet these conditions. Does the octopus meet these conditions? Of course, I don't need to say that it has strong vitality. Even if its head is cut open, and its tentacles are chopped off, it can still live for a long time. Secondly, the dominant genes are the so-called external characteristics, such as skin color and size. Even if the octopus is the same species, their size can fluctuate greatly. Another example is that they can freely change their skin color. When they live in different sea areas, water temperatures, and environments, they can adapt and change very quickly. This is all because the dominant genes are unstable. The recessive genes are stable because of their body functions, food, movement patterns, and reproduction methods. These are all recessive genes. No matter how the environment changes, they won't change. Nancy Chilla paused, then added, Actually, the so-called modification is mostly stimulated by external environmental factors to make living creatures adapt to changes. It's very different from the modification in real scientific terms. The so-called mutation should actually be called mutation. So the current technology can't achieve mutation through radiation like in the movies? It can be done, but there is no clear direction of modification. Catch 10,000 or 100,000 octopuses, and then let them receive stimulating drugs or small amounts of radiation. One or two of them may survive and mutate. Moreover, you can't be sure what this mutation will become. Maybe it will have an extra tentacle, or maybe it will have an extra head, or maybe it will have hair on its body, and so on. In short, it's uncertain and uncontrollable. And most of the time, the mutation is unstable. If it's a mutation of a dominant gene, it won't be fatal because most of the dominant genes are changes in physical characteristics, while the mutation of a recessive gene will directly change the behavior, or even the way of survival of the creature itself. Therefore, in most cases, the mutated creature will die directly, or in a short period of time. Is there no successful example? Although there is in theory, it's very difficult to actually do it. It can even be said to be impossible. At least for now, it's very difficult. The devil is beside meth, devil is beside me. Chapter 2390. Perhaps Nancy Kira had a good impression of Chen Zhao. Or perhaps he wanted to study the shark and dolphin family here. His attitude was a bit arrogant, but it wasn't that he wanted to be disrespectful to Chen Zhao. It was just his personality. Simply put, he had low EQ and high IQ. He spoke without considering other people's feelings, although it was hard to communicate with Nancy Kira. However, Chen Zhao didn't plan on developing a friendship with him. Where do you live? I'll take you home. The two didn't stand on ceremony with Chen Zhao. Send Nancy Chilla home first. Isaac, where do you live? 115 East Street. After a moment of silence, Isaac asked, Mr. Chen, do you own a pharmaceutical company? No. Chen Zhao replied indifferently. Mr. Chen, there's something that Professor Nancy didn't make clear, Isaac said meaningfully. Chen Zhao drove and glanced at Isaac from the corner of his eye. Oh, what didn't he say? He's a marine biology expert, and even the best marine biology researcher. But he's not the most proficient in marine mollusks. Are you? Chen Zhao asked. I'm more proficient than him, Isaac said confidently. Earlier, Professor Nancy said that it's theoretically possible to make octopuses mutate through artificial stimulation, but because of the destruction of recessive genes, their functions will die, and they won't be able to survive for long. Yes, that's what Professor Nancy said. Is there a problem with what he said? No, but it's not unsolvable. How? Just like a human individual, if he suddenly changes his lifestyle, habits, or even eating habits, the human individual will suffer from illness or even death. It's the same for octopuses. Of course, the mutation we're talking about is a more intense and radical method, so octopuses can hardly survive. If you want the mutated gene to survive, you can only do so through reproduction. Just like the survival of the fittest in the theory of evolution, after a dozen generations of reproduction, the mutated gene will become stable, and a new species will appear. What you said about relying on reproduction to stabilize genes, there is a big flaw in this. The first-generation mutant can be cultivated into a second-generation mutant through artificial reproduction by extracting seminal vesicles, but the genes of the second-generation mutant must still be in an unstable stage. Can they survive to maturity? Not to mention a dozen generations of reproduction. Octopuses can lay up to 100,000 eggs at a time. Among these 100,000 eggs, there will always be a small number of second-generation mutants that can survive. This is a matter of probability, because the large number increases the success rate of the experiment. If it were an ordinary mammal or an animal that lays fewer eggs, it would be much more difficult. These second-generation mutants that survived will be bred into the third and fourth generations. Their offspring's survival rate will gradually increase, and their genetic stability will gradually increase. Finally, they will become a new species. It does sound possible, but what about the actual operation? Of course, the actual operation is not as simple as the theory. This requires the accumulation of a huge amount of research and experimental data. Looks like you have experience in these kinds of experiments. Not me, but my senior and Professor Nanstan's assistant Homesius. 5 years ago, when I first came to the Marine Biology Research Institute, I was arranged to work under Homesius. He's an expert in marine soft-body creatures. I worked under Homesius for a year and came into contact with large amounts of experiments and data. I'm already very familiar with the entire process. However, for some reason Professor Nanstan and Homesius got into a conflict. They argued intensely in the office, and then Homesius left the institute in anger with his experimental data. I replaced Homesius and became Professor Nanstan's assistant. Have you been in contact with Homesius all these years? Chen Zhao asked. 2 years ago, Homesius was looking for investors who were willing to fund his research. At that time, I could feel his disappointment. He looked for many people, but none of them were able to get an investor. The next year, things seemed to have changed. At that time, I could feel the change in his tone and state of mind. Later, he invited me to quit my current job and return to his side to continue being his assistant, but I refused. Chen Zhao glanced at Isaac. He had a rough idea of what kind of person Isaac was. They hadn't interacted much, but Isaac's profit-oriented personality was already unmistakable. Although pure scientific researchers like Nanstan Kira deserve more respect. But in reality, people like Isaac were more comfortable. They knew how to get along with people and not make people feel disgusted. To Isaac, it didn't matter who his assistant was. There was no difference at all. Why would he give up on the relatively stable Nanstan Kira and choose Homesius, whose future was uncertain? This wasn't an academic question, but a practical one. Nanstan Kira hadn't given up on him, and Homesius still hoped that he could continue being his assistant. This meant that there was no problem with Isaac's abilities. Later, he told me that his research had been valued by investors, and that he had received an investment, and that he had formed his own research team. I was very happy for him, but after a few times of contact, he told me that his research needed to be kept secret, so he couldn't keep in touch with me. After that, our contact decreased. In the next 3 years, I only contacted him twice. The first time was when he sent me his blessings at Christmas, and the other time was when he complained that he didn't have a capable assistant. His assistants couldn't understand his intentions at all. As he spoke, Isaac couldn't help but glance at Chen Zhao. He'd said the last sentence on purpose, as if to prove his value. Do you know who invested in his research? Chen Zhao asked. No, He said that it was a clause in the confidentiality agreement. Then do you know where his research institute is? No. Do you have his contact information now? Or his home address? I know where his home is, but I'm not sure if he still lives there. Chen Zhao glanced at Isaac. Can I ask a practical question? Please. From your professional point of view, how do you turn your professional knowledge into economic benefits? Breeding and cultivation are currently the most widely used field of my professional knowledge. 9 Heavens Divine King. Chapter 2391. Chen Zhao rubbed his chin. If you have a great research job and a high-paying job, what would you choose? It's a high-paying job, Isaac answered calmly. His goal had never been to dedicate his life to science. What he needed was a high salary, fame, and a good life. He didn't want to be asked by Nance and Kira to work until dawn in the research institute every day. He didn't want to go into the sea to interact with sharks in the cold. If there's a job on an island that's about to be developed, Chen Zhao said, there are some marine creatures on the island that are clearly different from the commonly known natural creatures. For example, their size. This island is a tourist island. The owner of the island hopes to use these marine creatures to attract tourists. But at the same time, he doesn't want people to be overly suspicious of the origin of these marine creatures. What should I do? It's simple, Isaac replied with a smile. How? Hire me. I'm all ears. Before my island is announced, I will first publish some papers to establish the theory that these marine creatures should exist in the first place. At the same time, it will also give the public some time to adapt and buffer, so that when these marine creatures really appear in the eyes of the world, it will not cause such a strong impact. Chen Zhao suddenly stopped the car. Isaac was stunned. He watched as Chen Zhao stopped the car on the road in the middle of nowhere. He didn't understand what Chen Zhao wanted to do. Chen Zhao suddenly dug around in his pocket. Isaac suspected that Chen Zhao was going to take out a gun. Of course not. Chen Zhao took out a checkbook. He wrote a number on it and handed it to Isaac. Isaac jumped when he saw the numbers on the check. $1 million. It was definitely an astronomical number for him right now. Chen. Professor. Mr. Chen, what do you mean? Please quit your current job. I need you to work for me. Can I think about it? I just need you to answer. Accept or reject. I accept. Later, you'll receive a confidentiality agreement, Chen Zhao said. This is my investment plan, and you're a part of it. Of course, I don't need a marine biologist. At least, I don't need the best. Of course, I'm not just a marine biologist. I can also be a spokesperson. Isaac was very smart. He immediately understood what Chen Zhao needed. What Chen Zhao needed was someone to endorse his books. Someone with a relevant background, such as a professional who had been studying marine biology for a long time. I will definitely cooperate with Mr. Chen's plan. Back to business, Chen Zhao said. I want to find your former senior, Homesius. Originally, Isaac was very tired at this moment. But suddenly, he didn't feel tired anymore. His reaction fully demonstrated the saying, money makes the world go round. Money can solve most problems. Only a few problems require more money. Uncle, where are we going now? It's a secret. Just follow me, Chen Zhao said calmly. When the two left, it was already 3:30 in the morning. Binance was rather excited. He wasn't worried about any danger. As a child from a supernatural family, he'd encountered supernatural incidents at a young age. Chapter 2392. Uncle, is an evil schemer coming out to cause trouble? Or is an ancient demon about to break the seal? Let him break the seal so that we can beat him up. Chen Zhao just drove in silence, keeping a smile on his face. This time, Chen Zhao and Toddy Belster were meeting in a dense forest beside a highway. There weren't even any road signs. They were going to meet at the last road sign, drive at 80 kilometers per hour for 15 minutes, then get off and walk left for 2 kilometers. When Chen Zhao and Binance arrived, Toddy Belster wasn't there yet. Uncle, what are we waiting for? I know. Is it because we're waiting for time? Something special will happen at certain times. Yeah, something like that. Chen Zhao nodded. Then Binance, you're still young. Huh? What does it have to do with my age? Don't be so talkative when you're young. Suddenly, rustling sounds came from the forest. Binance stood up with a shiver. It seemed that he was still nervous. Soon Chen Zhao saw Toddy Belster in a mess. There was even dirt on his face. Phew. Phew. President. Let's meet at another restaurant next time. I'm so tired. It's so hard to find. I almost got lost. Uncle, is he a helper? Helper? President, do you need my help with anything? Toddy Belster's heart trembled. Wasn't it very dangerous for Chen Zhao to need help with something? Also, why did he bring a kid here? Ever since Toddy Belster became a spy, he started to be paranoid. From then on, he began to be paranoid. Whatever he did and whatever others said to him, he would speculate for a long time. Every time someone approached him, he would suspect that the other party was testing him. If he continued, he felt that he would get an occupational disease. I've already thought of a way to help you with your last request, Chen Zhao said. Huh? You have a way? What way? Is there a way for me to master powerful spells? Chen Zhao snapped his fingers. No, take off your shirt. Huh? Don't ask and talk. Hurry, it's late and everyone's busy. Okay. Toddy Belster was not very willing. Taking off his shirt, Toddy Belster shivered as he felt the cold wind blowing on his body. And then, lie down. Toddy Belster looked around. The ground was a little damp and full of withered leaves and weeds, as well as some messy sharp rocks. Binance, take a look at this magic circle and embroider one on him. Uncle, you can't say that the magic array is embroidered. It should be inscribed. It's more or less the same. Anyway, put one on him. Uncle, you didn't call me here to carry out any mission, did you? Binance, some missions are not as simple as they seem. There are secrets hidden behind them. You might even be saving the world right now. Don't underestimate everything you do. Him? Me? Save the world? Do you think I'm joking? No, I'm suspecting that you're lying to me. Ask him yourself if he is about to conquer a dreadful place. Yes, Bermuda, the land of demons. As a liar, Toddy Belster obviously knew how to cooperate with Chen Zhao. Bermuda? Uncle, you're saying that we might have to go to Bermuda, right? Yes, he's the key person to Bermuda. Okay, I understand. Binance's interest was piqued once again. Based on Chen Zhao's limited experience with children, this was what he had learned. If he wanted Eva to follow his orders, he had to fool him. Binance walked up to Toddy Belster. Uncle, hold him down. Worried, Toddy Belster looked at Chen Zhao and asked, will it hurt? I don't know. Then why does he want you to hold me down? Maybe it's to prevent you from getting crooked. Chen Zhao had already grabbed Toddy Belster. I won't move. I sleep peacefully and in a good position. You probably can't sleep, Binance said, smiling. Chen Zhao looked at Binance with admiration. Suddenly, Chen Zhao felt that Binance had the potential to be cunning at such a young age. Was tattooing painful? Anyone with experience would know that it was. The pain of a magic array was 100 times worse than a tattoo. Actually, a tattoo pen burned the skin with a high-intensity laser. If it wasn't continuous, it would just feel like a needle poking into the skin. But a magic array was different. It was continuous and excruciating pain. That kind of painful feeling was like taking a needle and poking it with force. It didn't stop for a second. Don't move. It'll be done soon. Chen Zhao held Toddy down tightly. Right now, Toddy's face was completely red. The veins on his neck and forehead were bulging. Coupled with his heart-wrenching screams, it was easy to imagine how much pain he was in. It won't be fast. It'll take at least an hour, Binance said. An hour? Wait. I don't want to draw anymore. Chen Zhao looked at Binance and rolled his eyes. Do you have to be so direct? Uncle, he has the right to know how much more pain he has to endure. This magic array doesn't look complicated. It's much simpler than the previous one. Why does it take so long? Because it's on a person's body. If it's on the ground, even if there's a mistake, it can be erased and redone. It can't be done on a person, so every mark must be correct. Chen Zhao shrugged and looked at Toddy with pity. Fine, Toddy, bear with it. It's not a big deal. 20 minutes later, Toddy could no longer make a sound. His screams had become hoarse, and his resistance was no longer as strong. His limbs were limp on the ground, and his eyes were lifeless. His entire body was soaked in cold sweat. and his breathing was rapid. Ah, bear with it. It's been 40 minutes. Uncle, only 20 minutes. Toddy Belster cried silently. To him, every minute and every second was so unbearable. His body didn't seem to belong to him anymore. But the pain still belonged to him. Bear with it. Chen Zhao didn't know how to comfort him. It's for your own good. Chapter 2393. Done, Pinan said. After 80 minutes, Toddy Belster finally let out a long breath. He'd finally heard this sentence. He'd lived for this sentence. Chen Zhao let go of Toddy too. Toddy Belster shed tears of excitement. Oh, Uncle, he's a regular person. Why didn't you knock him out? Don't you know the high-level hypnosis spell Banshee's Charm? Why do you keep Uncle Tatai conscious? Chen Zhao and Toddy Belster exchanged glances. Their expressions were rather awkward. Toddy, on the other hand, was both sad and furious. Why didn't you say so earlier? I thought you had some special reason, like the magic formation has to keep the host conscious. Chen Zhao's face twitched. Then why did you only say it now? Because it's over now, right? Okay. Chen Zhao pulled Toddy Belster up. Let's try your magic array. How do I use it? Even though Chen Zhao had prepared it for him, Toddy Belster was still confused. Think of cutting it down in your mind, and then snap your fingers. That's it. Toddy Belster was a little surprised. Wasn't it too simple? There were summoners in the psionic team too. Their summoning spells were very complicated and complicated to use. How complicated do you want it to be? Can you do something so complicated? All right. Toddy Belster took a deep breath and took a few steps forward, looking at the tree not far away. Then he snapped his fingers. Crack! Suddenly, a circle of light appeared before Toddy. A white light flashed out from the circle of light. Whoosh! It was a demon with blades in both arms. Slender and tall, it moved as fast as the wind. In an instant, the tree was cut in half. The double-edged demon somersaulted again and landed in front of Toddy Belster. Master. The demon knelt on one knee, its blades supporting its upper body. Toddy's face was filled with shock. This monster, he'd summoned it? Try it on me, Chen Zhao said. This was only a low-level demon. It wasn't strong enough. Huh? Belster stared at Chen Zhao in shock. Stop nagging. Come. Chen Zhao hooked his finger. Go. Toddy Belster pointed at Chen Zhao. The demon didn't waste any time and attacked Chen Zhao directly. Bang! Chen Zhao knocked the demon down with a single punch. Half of the demon's body was also blown to pieces. Continue summoning. Toddy Belster gulped and took a deep breath. Pa! With a snap of his fingers, 10 intermediate demons appeared in front of him. These 10 demons were all from different demon races. However, they were many times stronger than the low-level dual-blade demon from before. The handsome guy had told Chen Zhao about the summoning limit. At most, it could summon 10 ordinary intermediate demons at once. Or he could summon an intermediate demon with a domain. Depending on the summoner's needs, the number and strength of the summoned demons would be different. For example, if it was just to attack an ordinary enemy, it would only summon a low-level demon. It was as if he had done something insignificant. Toddy Belster didn't think she could summon so many demons. At that time, the only thought in his mind was to teach everyone a lesson. And then he summoned so many demons before him. Tear this place down, Toddy Belster ordered. He really wanted to know if the psionic team would flip the table if he tore down their beautiful new headquarters. Wait, Mr. Toddy. No. Yanghua and Blitz's expressions changed drastically. They didn't expect Toddy Belster to be so angry. At least, that was what they thought. But they couldn't stop Toddy Belster's demon army. Both of them were angry at Toddy Belster for being so unreasonable. Actually, they didn't understand Toddy's thoughts at all. He wanted the whole world to know how powerful he was. It had been too hard and frustrating to pretend in the past. Now he didn't have to pretend anymore. The poor would lose themselves when they had money. Toddy Belster was in that situation now. Of course, he still had some rationality. He knew what he should and shouldn't do. For example, he could fall out with the psionic team. Falling out meant that he failed his mission. If he failed, he would face Chen Zhao's anger. No matter how arrogant Toddy was, he wouldn't think that he could challenge Chen Zhao. He could tear down their door, but he couldn't kill them. The stronger he acted, the more the psionic team would respect him. But if he killed them, they would have to answer to the others, no matter how much they wanted talents. So he hadn't ordered the demon army to kill them yet. In fact, most demons did destruction as their main job. More than 30 people were lying on the ground. The headquarters was already in a mess. Just then Vestana walked out. No demons attacked her. With a cold expression, she walked up to Toddy Belster step by step. Then she bowed deeply. Mr. Toddy, I'm sorry. Can you please put away these demons? Taking a deep breath, Toddy Belster waved his hand and all the demons disappeared. I don't want the same thing to happen again. Whether it's to doubt me or to test me, I'll be worthy of every dollar you paid me. But I don't want anyone to challenge my bottom line. If it happens again, we won't be colleagues anymore. We'll be enemies. I understand. Vestana nodded. Vestana's attitude was very sincere, as if she deserved the destruction of the headquarters. Book a hotel for me. I'll stay there for a few days. Toddy Belster acted as if he didn't know that he'd done something terrible. Leader, he's too arrogant, Blitz said, his face pale. We need his power, Vestana said. The supernatural organization has Chun Zhao, Vestana said. The other members are all stronger than us. If we don't have a super expert like Toddy Belster, we'll always be on the defensive. We've paid a heavy price this time, but I don't think it's a bad thing. At least we know how strong he is. But his attitude shows that he doesn't care about us at all. He's as greedy as always. He just said that he stayed here for money, but he didn't do anything. From the beginning to the end, he attacked and destroyed the headquarters, but he didn't kill a single person. He knows that other than us, no one else can pay him that much money. Chapter 2395. Yang Guo and Blitz thought about it, and realized that it was indeed true. What was there to be afraid of? Greed was the easiest thing to control. If it were other spiritualists, they might have been able to convince them by using some methods, and using threats and promises. But could Toddy Belster use those tricks? It was fine if it was soft, but if it was hard, it was hard to tell who would fix who. Today Toddy Belster had shown them his true strength. They were all shocked. He was unreasonably strong. This reminded Vestana of Chun Zhao. He was also unreasonably strong. Who's stronger, him or Chun Zhao? Vestana was an outsider, so her question was the most direct. Hard to say. Yang Guo shook his head. After all, Chun Zhao was a dragon-slaying warrior. His power wasn't as simple as it seemed. Even the strength that he had displayed was not to be underestimated. The strength that Toddy Belster displayed was also not to be underestimated. Also, from the way he'd summoned the demon army, he hadn't used his true power either. From the looks of it, it was really difficult to determine who was stronger and who was weaker. But one thing was for sure, Toddy Belster could compete with Chun Zhao. Because of this, Yang Guo's psychological pressure was greatly reduced. He knew that Chun Zhao didn't have good intentions toward the psionic team. But his identity was awkward. Ever since he'd joined the team, he'd always stayed out of each other's way. He knew that if they fought head-on, it wouldn't benefit the team at all. But it was different now. The team wouldn't win for sure. At least they had a trump card. They weren't completely controlled by the supernatural organization. Yang Guo and Blitz suddenly felt that they hadn't gained nothing this time. After knowing Toddy Belster's power, the psionic team's morale would definitely be boosted. And Toddy Belster seemed angry. But wasn't that asking for benefits from them? If it could be solved with money, it wasn't a problem. What was a headquarters? The psionic team didn't have anything else but money. Maybe we can test the supernatural organization, Vestana said, her eyes sparkling. In that instant, Yang Guo's scalp went numb. Vestana, you're crazy. I'm not. Don't you think it's time for us to counterattack? No, you still don't understand the difference between the psionic team and the supernatural organization. He's not our real comrade, but the supernatural organization is different. If Toddy Belster has the power to crush him, then pretend I didn't say anything. If Toddy Belster and Chun Zhao are equal in power, Toddy Belster won't fight to the death with Chun Zhao. If Toddy Belster is slightly weaker, he'll definitely retreat first, because they have different responsibilities. Chun Zhao is the president, the leader, And Toddy Belster is a mercenary. Yes, Captain, Blitz said. In terms of high-end combat power, we can only protect ourselves. We can't ask Toddy Belster to fight to the death for us, and we can't completely control him. In terms of the normal members, even though we have 3 times the number of them, we still can't beat the supernatural organization in terms of strength. Yes. So, if there's a full-scale conflict, even if Chen Zhao loses, they won't be completely defeated, because their low-level combatants will still be intact. On the other hand, the failure of our high-level combatants, or the mid-level and low-level combatants, will be a fatal blow to us. Then we're just going to hide like turtles? You're not going to do anything? Vestana said discontentedly. Vethana, haven't you been working on that plan? If your plan succeeds, you'll also become a high-end fighter, no weaker than Toddy Belster and Chen Zhao. That's when the real counterattack will come. Vestana thought for a moment, then nodded. She was indeed a little impatient. After all, the psionic team existed to replace the supernatural organization. But until now, she hadn't made any progress on this mission. The supernatural organization was still as firm as a rock, unshakable. The psionic team had been developing steadily, but they still couldn't pose a threat to the supernatural organization. This time, Vestana placed the most importance on conquering Bermuda, because this was a chance to prove the psionic team. It would prove that the psionic team could handle any supernatural incidents. Once the conquest of Bermuda succeeded, the supernatural organization's purpose of existence would be greatly reduced. By then it wouldn't matter if they were stronger than the psionic team. Whatever the supernatural organization could solve, the psionic team could too. That was enough. And now, Toddy Belster would become an important factor in this plan. His strength would also become the most important combat power. In the end, under Yang Guo and Blitz's persuasion, Vestana temporarily suppressed the idea of testing the supernatural organization. The most important thing now was indeed the conquest of Bermuda. As for dealing with the supernatural organization in the future, she could do it herself after her plan succeeded. Yang, make the arrangements. Book a hotel for Toddy Belster and the other members, Vestana said. Blitz, you're in charge of contacting the construction company to rebuild the headquarters. I hope the new headquarters won't be destroyed so easily. This time, all the members of the psionic team became homeless because of this conflict. The psionic team directly booked 3 floors of a hotel. The psionic team's office also needed a big place. The next day, Yang Guo and Blitz went to find an office building. After all, the members' activities and offices needed a relatively large and private area. Toddy Belster, on the other hand, had a clear conscience and was having fun in the hotel. It was as if the culprit of all this wasn't him. When the other members saw Toddy Belster, they didn't dare mention what happened last night. They either called him Mr. or Master. No one dared to give him the cold shoulder. Mr. Toddy, I apologize for what happened last night. Yang Guo found Toddy Belster again, and took the initiative to apologize. His main task now was to appease Toddy Belster. It's fine. You and I both know what it means, don't you? You test me, I fight back. It's that simple. Just don't do it a second time. I don't like it when people test me. Toddy Belster was especially generous right now, as if he wasn't the one who forcefully demolished the headquarters last night. Chapter 2396. Yang Guo felt a little strange. For some reason, Yang Guo felt that Toddy Belster's reaction was completely different from what he had imagined. However, Toddy Belster's calm attitude at least made Yang Guo feel more relaxed. However, he did not know where that sudden feeling came from. Yang Guo shook his head and got rid of the distracting thoughts. The psionic team still had a lot of chores to take care of. He also had to take responsibility. As soon as he left the hotel, he saw 2 Taoist priests walking toward him. Yes, Taoist priests. Senior Brother Dao Er, Senior Brother Dao San. The 2 Taoist priests stopped and looked at Yang Guo, then at the hotel. Daojio, why are you here? Senior brother. Can you call me by my name? In their generation, other than eldest Senior Brother Dao Yi, who sounded like a Taoist Dharma name, everyone else had Dharma names. The others' Dharma names were 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Alright Guo Er, why are you here? Call me by my full name. Xiao Yang. Forget it. Yang Guo waved his hand with a dark expression. Senior brother, you haven't told me why you are here. Grandmaster told us to come, Dao Er said. He said that you are facing a great calamity and wanted us to bring you back to Dragon Tiger Mountain to avoid it. Yang Guo's expression changed when he heard his two senior brothers. However, he immediately thought of the impending Bermuda expedition. Could it be that his great tribulation would be in Bermuda? We were going to look for you at the psionic team's headquarters, but you came directly to our hotel. Wait, you didn't know we were coming? You're not here to pick us up? Ah. Senior brother Dao Er, senior brother Dao San. I'm afraid I can't go back to Dragon Tiger Mountain with you. It's okay. We don't plan on asking you to come with us obediently. Grandmaster had already guessed that you wouldn't return to the mountain so obediently. So he specially allowed the two of us to break your legs and drag you back to the mountain gate if you say half a word of no. With that, a mace appeared in Dao Er's hand. This is a gift from Grandmaster, specially made to break your legs. How about it? Give it a try. Senior brother, this is a public place. Are you sure you want to fight here? Tonight at midnight, let's meet at a place to decide who's better. If I lose, I'll willingly follow the orders of my two senior brothers. Alright, we'll wait until tonight. However, we're not familiar with this place. Arrange a place for us, Dao Er said. Let's go to the hotel to rest first. Junior brother, I heard that all the services in this hotel are free, right? Dao San asked. Not all of them are free. Yang Guo glanced at the hotel. Some of the services still had to be charged, such as unsuitable for children. Senior, some of the services are more expensive. It's fine. This time, Grandmaster has specially approved a sum of funds for the activities. He returned to the hotel and helped his two senior brothers arrange a place to stay. Only then did he return to his own business. However, Yang Guo also had a headache regarding the matter of his two senior brothers. Senior brother Dao Er and senior brother Dao San were much stronger than him, not to mention the two of them working together. Furthermore, they had treasures specifically designed to deal with him. This made his head hurt even more. Find a place to hide. Although Los Angeles was huge, with Dao Er and Dao San's cultivation, it was not difficult for them to find him. Grandmaster had probably thought about this as well. What should he do? Yang Guo worried about this matter as he drove. Suddenly, Yang Guo thought of an idea. It was a very bad idea. Yang Guo picked up his phone and dialed Vestana's number. Vestana, do me a favor, a small one. Knock, knock, knock. Before Dao Er and Dao San could rest for a while, there was a knock on the door. Dao Er and Dao San were sitting in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, leaning back on the sofa to soak their feet. Dao Er narrowed his eyes slightly when he heard the knock on the door. The door is unlocked. Come in. Then, a dozen police officers came in, all pointing their guns at Dao Er and Dao San. We are the Los Angeles police. We have received a report that you are hiding and smuggling drugs. The leading police officer pointed his gun at the two Taoist priests. He was a little puzzled. Were these two oddly dressed old men really the vicious scoundrels and drug traffickers that he had reported? Dao Er and Dao San did not panic at all. What are you talking about? I don't understand. It's English, Dao Er said calmly. Put your hands up, put your hands up. Both sides were talking in a language that the other side did not understand. You have to come with us. Now put your hands out. Senior brother, he took out his handcuffs to detain us, right? I think so, Dao Er said and stretched out his hands. Dao San also stretched out his hands. Captain, we didn't find any contraband. Don't worry about that. I received orders from the higher-ups to detain them for 24 hours. Are you sure we won't get into trouble? The other police officers seemed to have realized that the two old men did not look like drug traffickers. They looked more like old men who were here on vacation. They dealt with all kinds of criminals all year round. Therefore, sometimes they could find out whether a person was a criminal or not. Even if foreign drug traffickers wanted to find some special people to smuggle drugs, they would not find an old man who did not understand English at all. The old foreigners seemed less suspicious, but in fact, because the old could not keep up with the young, they were more likely to be exposed. The vast majority of people used young students to circulate and store their due. Students were smart, bold, and the least suspicious. Therefore, they suspected that the captain had other motives for bringing them here. At this moment, the captain also admitted that he was not here to search for contraband, but to receive another mission. Dao Er and Dao San left with the police obediently. Sure enough, it's just as Grandmaster guessed. Little junior brother won't go back with us obediently. This is probably his trick. Although Dao Er and Dao San had never been abroad, it did not mean that they were completely inexperienced. Moreover, Yanggua's handling of the matter was very crude. It was not difficult for them to guess that it was Yanggua's doing. Little junior brother has been out for a few years and has learned to be bad. So when we bring him back to the sect this time, we must discipline him well. Yanggua heaved a sigh of relief when he saw his two senior brothers being sent into the police car from afar. He had finally avoided a disaster for the time being. If he really had to fight with the two of them, he would definitely be beaten up badly. However, he did not think that the crisis was over. He took the opportunity to go to their room to take a look. Their luggage should have been left in the hotel, and they probably did not bring their Dharma artifacts and Dharma treasures with them. He would first get his hands on their Dharma artifacts and Dharma treasures, so that he would not be too passive, even if he had to face them in the future. Chapter 2397. This kid really has the same idea. He took advantage of our absence to take our artifacts. Don't worry about him. I've never been to a police station before, and it's a foreigner's police station. Dao Er and Dao San were handcuffed and sitting behind the police car. However, they didn't seem to be in a hurry at all. Instead, they were looking forward to it. The two policemen in the front seat were also muttering. "Captain, are these two old men important witnesses in a big case? You're thinking too much. They're just two ordinary old men." "Captain, you must be lying to me. Otherwise they're the bosses of some gang. Look at their eyes, they look a little scary." The captain looked at the two old men in the rearview mirror and said, "You're just scaring yourself." After all, the captain was more experienced than his subordinates. Sometimes, the people detained in the police station might not be criminals or suspects. They might also be detained for some reason. Moreover, he had just checked the two old men's luggage. Their luggage was also very ordinary. There was nothing suspicious about it. Maybe they're wizards from the East. The policeman in the passenger seat began to guess their identities again. The captain rolled his eyes and ignored his subordinates. After arriving at the police station, Dao Er and Dao San were temporarily thrown into the corridor. In front of them, and on their left and right were also arrested criminals. The two of them formed a sharp contrast with the criminals around them. They were like two lambs in a pack of wolves. "Hey, old man, what are you looking at?" At that moment, the man with a flat top and a nose ring, who was covered in all kinds of tattoos, shouted unhappily. "Young man, your fate is obscure. Dark clouds are looming over your head. You'll have bad luck in the near future. You must be careful and avoid water," Dao San said. "Third bro, can these foreigners understand you when you speak Mandarin to him?" "Oh, that's right." Dao San patted his head and suddenly came to a realization. He said that your luck has been bad recently. It's very likely that something bad will happen because of water, said a man sitting on the left of Dao Er. Bullshit. The flat-top man stood up and was about to attack. At that moment, a policewoman came over with a cup of coffee. The moment the flat-top man raised his arm, the coffee in the policewoman's hand flew away. The hot coffee was poured directly on the flat-top man. A layer of skin was almost peeled off from the heat. A few police officers came over and asked about the situation. They called for an ambulance and took the man away. Everyone looked at Dao Er and Dao San in a different light. "Sir, are you two prophets from the East?" "We are not prophets, but this old man is proficient in divination." Dao San stroked his mustache. "Can you help me take a look?" the man asked. Dao San stared at the man for a few seconds, looking him up and down. "The white light on your body is restrained, so you are a person of virtue. You must have done some good deeds, so you have the sign of yin turning into yang. Even if there is a bad thing, it can be turned into a good thing." However, your essence, chi, and spirit are declining, and your sixth senses are unclear. I'm afraid you haven't had a good rest in the past 3 years. However, you don't have the sign of a short life, so when you grow old, you will most likely be plagued by illness. Dao San paused and waved his hand. Give me your palm. I'll read your palm. Sir, please. Dao San took the man's hand and looked at his palm print. Looking at your physiognomy, you have 2 marriages in this life, and the head and the tail are connected. You are suspected of having an extramarital affair. You have 2 daughters and a son. Your eldest daughter should be 9 years old this year, and you will have your second daughter this year. 3 years later, you will have your 3rd child. The man's mouth was agape as he looked at Dao San in shock. In Dao San's notes, apart from some future events that did not happen, the things that had already happened were completely accurate. He did have a daughter, and he was currently in 2 relationships. However, the first relationship had come to an end. They had already separated, and his current girlfriend was already pregnant, and it was confirmed that she was pregnant with a girl. In addition, at the beginning of the year, he did have a serious illness, and his current girlfriend was a nurse in the hospital. They got to know each other when he was hospitalized. Sir, you are the great sage of the East. You are too great. Little Dao, little Dao. Dao San stroked his mustache proudly. The man excitedly told the others around him. The others were also a little surprised, or looked at him suspiciously. At this moment, a bearded punk shouted, "Hey, let him take a look at me." The man hesitated and looked at Dao San. Sir, this bearded man wants you to take a look at him. Are you? Come, let me take a look at him too. Dao San was also interested and did not refuse. He wants you to put your hand over. Dao San took the bearded man's hand and began to comment. 3 righteous, 3 fair, 6 meritorious, 5 generals. Sir, I don't understand what you are talking about. Dao San raised his head and looked at the face of the punk bearded man. He has a vermilion seed mark, which is the mark of an official. In other words, from his face, he should be a police officer. Wait, could this guy be a spy? Dao Er suddenly said. The expression of the man in charge of translating also changed slightly. Then, he whispered into the ear of the punk bearded man. They said that you seem to be a police officer. The punk bearded man's expression also changed drastically, and he suddenly retracted his hand. The blood on his forehead is condensing. There will be a great disaster soon. Dao San glanced at the punk bearded man from the corner of his eye. He said that you might be in big trouble soon. Something very serious will happen. At this moment, Dao San took out a talisman. Let him hang it on his body. Don't take it off for the next 7 days. He said that you can't take it off for the next 7 days. The punk bearded man looked at the talisman hesitantly. Money. No money. Dao San waved his hand and at the same time, drew an obscure pattern in the air with his palm. He chanted, the 3 sovereigns offer earth, the 5 emperors set love, the yellow sky offers respect, the 6 directions alone. What is he doing? The punk bearded man was conflicted. Looking at Dao San's strange expression, he did not want to believe it. However, this old Asian man had actually seen through his identity. This made his mind start to run wild. Chapter 2398. Katie, who's Katie? A police officer shouted from the end of the corridor. The big punk man stood up and raised his hand. That's me. It's your turn. Come in. Katie walked in and was brought to an interrogation room. Not long after, a detective came in. The detective locked the door from the inside. Katie, why did you come to the police station directly? The detective knew who he was, so he was very surprised that Katie had come to the police station. Recently, there was a safe at the Mexican border that wanted us to transport it. I don't know what the goods are, but the client is very mysterious. I saw him once from afar, and that guy gave me a very uncomfortable feeling. Katie said, the client's request is that when we transport the goods, we are not allowed to leave the motorcade, nor are we allowed to bring any communication devices. I can't inform you, so I can only drink while driving to attract the attention of the patrolling police. Then they brought me in. Now my car is detained in the parking lot of the police station. I'll send someone to open the safe immediately. But to avoid arousing suspicion, you'll need to be detained for 3 days. At the same time, you'd better get a new driver's license. That safe can't be opened. It's a safe completely made of titanium alloy. Our boss was also curious about what we were transporting. If it's something good, he'll take it for himself. But he couldn't open it even after using a cutting machine and laser. Is that safe very big? Of course. Do you think it's the kind that's kept in your cabinet? I drive a truck. Do you think if it's a small safe, it'll be transported in my big truck? All right. But you don't have to worry about how to open it. I'll find someone to open it. Ronson, after we arrest Colin this time, I want to quit, Katie said. Quit? Why? I don't want to continue being a villain and hooligan in the eyes of my family and friends. I want to be able to watch my son's school matches openly. Listen, Katie. Everything you're doing now will be enough to make your child proud in the future. He can shout to everyone that you're his hero, Ronson advised. In the future? When? When he goes to college. Or marry a wife and have children. Before he was born, I said that I wanted to quit, but you persuaded me to stay. Later he could walk, and later, he went to primary school. I don't know when the end will come. Maybe as you said one day, what I did will make him feel honored. Maybe it will be at my funeral. Oh, will you come then? All right, let's not talk about this for the time being. After all, it's not easy to arrest Colin. Based on the information you provided me, speeding, drunk driving, and smoking dama. The bail doesn't even need to be $10,000. I need more valuable information. I hope that it can keep him in prison until the end of time, or send him directly to the gallows as evidence. He's too careful. Most of the time, he doesn't even get involved in his business, Katie said. Only after we've delivered the goods will he invite us for a drink. As long as you're human, there will always be mistakes. I believe in your ability. Ronson patted Katie's shoulder. I have arranged a luxurious suite for you. Have a good time. Wait. Is there anything else? Katie raised her hands. Can you unlock the handcuffs? All right. Ronson unlocked Katie's handcuffs. Suddenly, he noticed the amulet hanging around Katie's neck. What's this? An accessory? You have terrible taste. Katie slapped Ronson's hand, but accidentally broke the string of the amulet. Damn it, don't touch my belongings. Be careful, or I'll sue you. Katie picked up the amulet and hung it around his neck again. When Katie was sent to the cell, he found that there were already 2 people in the cell. They were Dao Er and Dao San, whom he had met in the corridor earlier. Katie nodded at them, chose a bed and sat down. Because of the language barrier, he couldn't communicate with them. Senior brother, look at this fat guy. The blood energy on his body has thickened. It's like a sign of impending disaster. What's going on? Is my amulet useless? Dao Er also looked at Katie. This fatty has a big head and big ears, and he has a loyal face. He should have received some good karma, and with the help of your protective talisman, he should have been able to resolve the blood chi tribulation. Why didn't he? Katie could feel the 2 old men's gazes lingering on him. He couldn't help but feel puzzled. However, he didn't understand Chinese, and the 2 old men didn't understand English. The 2 of them just stared at each other. And Aiwa. This was the only Chinese that Katie knew. However, even this simple word was unclear. Hello. The 2 old men were about the same. They only knew a few simple English words. Where are you from? China. Dao Er and Dao San understood. Dao Er nodded. China. China Willy good. Senior brother, what's Willy good? It means good. I told you to learn more. But you only know how to play King of Kings. Look at us martial uncles. We can already take in a few foreign disciples. We can't even understand a few words of English. How can we keep up with the times? Aren't you not much better than me? Dao San mumbled. I've been in seclusion for 20 years, and only came out recently. What about you? You only know how to idle around every day. How much good time has been wasted by you? How can you compare me to you? I told you to go into seclusion, but you didn't want to. You haven't improved in 20 years. How long have you been stuck in this realm? Senior brother, since we're here in the United States, there are people everywhere who understand English. This guy looks good. Why don't we follow the trend and take in a foreign disciple? Him. Dao Er looked at Katie. Katie panicked for no reason. She looked at Dao Er and Dao San hesitantly. What do you think? Can you do it? How do we communicate with him? Simple. Let our junior brother arrange one for us. As he spoke, Dao San took out a phone. Katie looked at the phone in Dao San's hand and couldn't help but be surprised. Where did this old man hide his phone? Didn't the police discover it earlier? This was a detention center. They would first be searched by the police, and then a second search would be conducted before they were locked up. Even if they hid their phone in their underwear, they wouldn't be able to hide it. Katie looked at the two old men even more curiously. Dao San ignored Katie's curious gaze and dialed Yanggua's number. Gua, do you miss me? Senior brother. Why are you? Cut the crap and send me a translator. It's best if it's a spiritualist. If I don't see anyone in an hour, I'll go out and kill you. Divine Emperor of the Nine Heavens. Chapter 2399. Yanggua was a little guilty. Soon a member of the psionic team was sent over. He knew Chinese. It was a Chinese American, but he was a pure banana person. He had immigrated to America in his father's generation. Hello, Master Dao Er, Master Dao San. I'm from Yanggua. My name is Scott Lee. Katie looked at the Asian newcomer. His hands were handcuffed, but he went straight to Dao Er and Dao San as soon as he came in. She was even more curious about the two old men. Just then, Scott Lee came to Katie. Hello, I'm their translator. Translator? Why? I don't know. I'm just following orders from my superiors. They asked me to help you communicate, Scott Lee said. Superiors? Did they send you to jail? It's only 24 hours, and there's no criminal record. It's just a mission for me. Just then, Dao Er and Dao San came to Katie. Kati was a little wary of these two old men, who were talking mysteriously. Big guy, we're from the Dragon Tiger Mountain Heavenly Master sect in China. My name is Dao Er. We think you have the talent to learn Taoism, which is Eastern magic. Are you willing to be our disciple? Scott Lee translated at the same time. Of course, he could only give a rough explanation. They're from China. They want you to be their disciple. Listen, I won't be their disciple. I didn't even go to university. Do you know why? When I was in high school, I forced 3 teachers to resign. Then I was also expelled. I'm sure they can't take my fists. Katie clenched her fists. Her bare arms were even bigger than Dao Er and Dao San's heads. I don't think they have anything to teach me, he refused. Scott Lee used a more direct method to answer 2 and 3. If you refuse, you might die. Of course, if you're lucky, you might be able to escape. But if you become our disciple, we'll help you. They said that if you refuse, they'll kill you, Scott Lee said. Did they really say that? Something like that, Scott Lee said irresponsibly. Katie shrugged and sat back on the bed. They don't have that ability. All right, if you guys still want to talk, call me at any time, Scott Lee said. Senior brother, what do we do now? I don't know. It's fine if he doesn't want it. This safe is way too hard. Lang Sun helplessly looked at the completely damaged chainsaw wheel in the hands of the 2 workers. One of the workers raised his visor and shook his head. No, it's impossible. It's impossible to open this safe with conventional physical means, unless you use corrosive chemicals or explosives. Ronson shook his head. He still didn't know what was inside. If chemical agents or explosives were used, it was very likely that the contents would be destroyed. His ultimate goal was to arrest Colin. Perhaps the contents of the safe would be a powerful piece of evidence. Therefore, it was impossible for him to use chemicals or explosives to open the safe. Think of another way. The sturdiness of this safe is completely unreasonable, the worker said. Even if it's made of titanium alloy, it shouldn't be this sturdy. Lang Sun reached out and stroked the huge safe in front of him. It was silvery white all over, and there was no trace of screws or bolts connecting it. The safe was completely integrated. Even the connection between the door and the safe was perfect. There was not a single gap. But because of this, Lang Sun was even more certain. The contents of the safe were very important. Although Lang Sun didn't know the exact value of the safe, without a few $100,000, it was impossible to buy or make it. Something that was stored in such an expensive safe box must be very important. Damn, another wheel is broken. The worker looked at Lang Sun. If you can get a laser cutter, you might be able to open this safe. Anyway, conventional means won't work. Laser cutter. Lang Sun immediately had an idea. Although there were no laser cutters in the police station, it didn't mean that he couldn't find one. Through layers of connections, Lang Sun finally got a laser cutter. At the same time, there were people operating the laser cutter. But the laser cutter was really too big. Just assembling the laser cutter would take a few hours. What is this? It tastes terrible. Dao San grumbled as he dropped his fork. Their dinner tonight was macaroni and cheese with a steak. Dao Er also lost his appetite after a few mouthfuls. When we get out, we must teach the youngest a lesson. How dare he lock us in here and ignore us? Dao Er and Dao San were both furious. Hey kid, come here. Dao Er called out to Sko Li. What's the matter, masters? Give Yangguo a call, and tell him to prepare dinner for us. Sko Li looked at Dao Er and Dao San awkwardly. I don't have my phone. Really? Dao Er glanced at Sko Li nonchalantly. Sko Li suddenly shivered. He knew from Yangguo that these two were Yangguo's senior brothers. And they were ridiculously powerful spiritualists. And they were from Dragon Tiger Mountain Sage Sect. In the spiritual world, Dragon Tiger Mountain Sage Sect was definitely the richest of the rich. If Dragon Tiger Mountain Sage Sect was compared to a school, then it was the top school. Almost all spiritualists yearned to go there. Every spiritualist who came from there had the mark of Dragon Tiger Mountain Sage Sect. Almost all of them represented power and nobility. Moreover, Sko Li knew how powerful Yangguo was. How strong were the two people who could make Yangguo afraid? Okay, I'll call Yang now. Katie saw a phone suddenly appear in Sko Li's hand. What's wrong with these people? Where did they hide their phones? Also, it felt like they weren't here to go to jail. It was more like they were here on vacation. Soon a few police officers arrived outside the cell. These police officers carried all kinds of takeaway and delivered it to their cells. Were these two old men rich? They didn't look like it. The two old men opened the takeaway and curled their lips in disdain. Forget it, we're in jail after all. We can't ask for too much, Dao Er said. Call him over to eat too. Sko Li looked at Katie. They said you should come over too. Me? I've already eaten. Are you full from that pile of dog shit? Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 2400. Dao San and Dao Er weren't very satisfied with the new dinner. However, it was already very sumptuous for Katie. In the end, Katie sat in front of Dao Er and Dao San. She ate in big mouthfuls. Compared to the meticulously prepared food, the dinner in the detention center was indeed like dog shit. Who are they? Magicians from the East, Scott Lee said casually. Katie rolled his eyes. Even though Dao San had read his fortune before, he still felt that it might be a coincidence, or that Dao San had played some trick. What about you? I'm a translator, they called. I'm an amateur. Are they very rich? I don't know. What did they do to get in here? They were ordered to bring their junior back to the country. Their junior didn't want to, so they used their connections to temporarily lock them up here. Katie couldn't help but frown. He was a police officer after all. Hearing Scott Lee's words, he couldn't help but think that the police system was corrupt in framing two innocent old men. Katie was considering if he should find a chance to ask Ronson to let the two old men out. How much longer? Ronson asked. Not long. We can penetrate this safe, as long as we assemble it. The melting point of titanium alloy isn't high. The cutting temperature of the laser far exceeds the melting point of titanium alloy, the worker said. All their work was actually to assemble the laser cutter. They had been busy since 3 in the afternoon until now. Almost all of their time was spent assembling. Fortunately, after a few hours, and the hard work of a dozen workers, the assembly of the laser cutter was nearing completion. We can't penetrate it directly. I want to cut it from the side, Ronson said. They still didn't know what was hidden in the titanium alloy safe. However, if they pierced it directly from the front, it could easily destroy the things inside. Although it was possible to cut it from the side, the danger could be reduced. Okay, we can start cutting. The laser cutter was aimed at the side of the safe. Level 2 laser ready. The person in charge handed Ronson a pair of sunglasses to protect his eyes. Put this on. Otherwise, you might go blind. It's best to stand back. There might be scattering when we use the laser. A green laser shot out from a circular aperture. The green laser hit the outer wall of the safe and immediately bounced off. However, there were baffles beside the safes to prevent damage or injuries from the laser reflection. The laser also left a spot on the titanium alloy safe. The surrounding titanium alloy also showed signs of melting. Increase the output. Current power level is 278. Continue to increase the power. Just then, Ronson heard a puff. A black hole was left on the outer wall of the safe. Cut it open? Yes, cut it open. Ronson nodded. At this moment, the black hole on the safe suddenly emitted a large amount of gas. What's this smell? It's really choking, cough cough. The operator hadn't even taken a step when he suddenly fell to the ground. Then the gas began to spread outwards, and the surrounding workers collapsed one after another. Ronson's expression changed dramatically. Could it be that the safe contained poisonous gas? But at that moment, the gas seemed to be controlled again. It began to shrink crazily. Ronson rubbed his eyes and looked at the gas in shock. The gas was behaving very strangely. It was changing in an unimaginable way. Finally, the gas turned into a woman in classic clothes. The woman looked left and right. Then her gaze fell on Lang Sr. Where is this? This isn't the agreed place. The woman looked at Ronson and said, You're not my contact. Where's the delivery man? Where is he now? Stop, don't move. Put your hands on your head. Ronson pulled out his gun and pointed at the strange woman. What's that? A weapon. The woman looked at Ronson and asked, I'm a LAPD officer. I want you to put your hands on your head and get on the ground. Now. Immediately. No one can order me, the woman said calmly. Bang, Ronson fired. The woman only tilted her shoulder slightly. Her shoulder was pierced by a bullet, but it didn't bleed. The wound was also quickly healing. This thing means nothing to me. It doesn't have any magic support. Ronson had never seen anything like this. A woman who was completely unafraid of guns and bullets. Maybe she wasn't human at all. All right, mortal. I want to know where the delivery man is. Ronson's expression changed. The delivery man she mentioned was definitely Katie. But Ronson wouldn't betray Katie. This time, Ronson aimed the gun at the woman's head. Bang, 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 3 shots in a row. The woman's head tilted back slightly, but her body didn't fall. The woman slowly straightened herself and looked at Ronson. The woman's strange and terrifying reaction sent chills down Ronson's spine. At that moment, the woman raised one hand and grabbed something in the air. A red spear appeared in her hand. But the woman thought about it. Seems like I'm overreacting. Then, the woman pulled back the red spear. Ronson's breathing became ragged. At first he didn't feel it. But the more he faced this woman, the more he felt a suffocating pressure. But if you continue to refuse my request, I will kill every human that appears in my sight. The woman looked at the unconscious people on the ground. Let's start with them. Ronson panicked. The unconscious people around him were all normal people. They weren't even police officers. And because of his own needs, he brought them here. But now he had to drag them down. Ronson felt guilty. At that moment, he was faced with a multiple-choice question. Sacrifice the lives of these normal people, or sacrifice Katie's life. Ronson had been using Katie, but the more he did so, the more he felt guilty towards Katie. I can sense that there are many humans here. It shouldn't be hard to kill them all, the woman said calmly. I will take you there. Ronson finally gave in. He still had some hope that this woman wouldn't harm Katie. Wise choice. Who exactly are you? Don't you already have the answer? I'm not human. What is your goal? Goal? Do you think I will tell you? You call me a mortal, so you must think of yourself as a god. As a god, would you be afraid of telling a mortal your plan? This kind of provocation doesn't work on me. Chapter 2401. Ronson brought the woman into the cell. Hey Ronson, who's this woman? She's so pretty. Did she commit a crime too? Lock her in my room. I'll teach her a lesson. Ronson listened to the filthy words of the prisoners in the cells along the way. He was afraid that the woman behind him would go berserk and kill all the prisoners. However, The woman followed behind Ronson expressionlessly. Ronson heaved a long sigh of relief. Are you afraid that I'll kill them? They're just criminals. Most of them deserve to die. Their lives aren't up to you to decide. No, I have the ability and the right to punish them. You can't stop me. Ronson didn't say anything else and silently walked in front. However, he still tried to slow down. I don't like to waste time, the woman said. Suddenly, the woman stopped and took a few steps back. What are you doing? He's not here. Ronson's eyes flickered and he was a little panicked. However, the woman ignored Ronson's shouts and looked at Katie in the cell next to him. Katie, is the woman outside here to see you? Scully patted Katie. Katie looked at the woman outside and shook her head. I don't know her. At that moment, the woman outside smiled. You don't know me, but I know you, delivery man. Hearing this, Katie raised an eyebrow. Who are you? I'm the living thing you want to deliver. The woman said, you had to fulfill your vow and send me to my destination, but you broke your promise. Katie looked at Ronson and asked him what was going on with her eyes. Ronson's expression was ugly, and he kept shaking his head. At that moment, a red spear appeared in the woman's hand. Oh no! Scully's expression changed and he formed a hand seal. Ha! In an instant, the iron bars in front of them twisted and locked onto the woman. Both Katie and Ronson were shocked by Scully's move. The woman was instantly wrapped up by the iron bars. Ronson didn't care what was going on, and his face was filled with joy. He was worried that something would happen to Katie. He didn't expect such a mysterious expert to be with him. But before he could rejoice, a giggle came from beside him. The iron bars around the woman were being forced open by her. Close it. Scott Lee tried his best to control the fence. However, this woman was simply too strong. His control was completely incomparable to this woman's. Hiss, finally, the woman tore off the iron bars covering her body. The red spear in the woman's hand suddenly slammed towards Scott Lee. Suddenly, a long sword blocked the woman's red spear. Huh. Both Katie and Langsun looked surprised again. It was Dao Air who blocked the red spear with his sword. The woman's strength abruptly increased by a few notches. She lowered the long sword in her hand to dissipate the force. At the same time, she twisted the hilt of the sword in her hand, and the tip of the sword stabbed toward the woman at a tricky angle. The woman immediately took a few steps back. Dao Air also took a few steps back. What's going on with this woman? Dao San asked. I can't see through her life providence. That's because she's not human. Of course you can't tell, Dao Air said. Not human? What was that? Demon? Goblin? Or is it some kind of ghost? I can't tell. Dao Air shook his head. This is too strange. What is this woman? What? Mortal, you're being too rude, the woman said unhappily. I'm a god. God? No, you're not a god. Dao Air shook his head. He had followed Zhang Tianyi down the mountain many times, so he was very knowledgeable. However, he could not tell what this woman was for now. She was definitely not a god. Humph. Golden flames suddenly erupted from the woman's body. Langsun, who was beside her, was forced back by the golden flames. The spear in the woman's hand burst into golden flames. Her target was Katie. Katie was so frightened that she stood rooted to the ground when she saw the golden flames. At that moment, Dao Air took out an 8 trigrams mirror and placed it in front of Katie. He shouted, reflect. The golden flames were instantly reflected back to the woman. However, the woman was not afraid of his attack. A very good magical tool. You mortals can only rely on tricks like this to survive. Even if I don't use this artifact, I can still suppress you. As soon as Dao Air finished speaking, the 8 trigrams mirror in his hand suddenly disappeared. Senior brother, why did you put away the 8 trigrams mirror? I didn't. However, the woman did not give them any time to hesitate. She suddenly stabbed the red spear in her hand at Dao Air. Damn it. Dao San suddenly threw out dozens of talismans. The woman immediately changed her attack pattern and swung the red spear to knock the talismans away. However, the talismans were like nimble birds, cleverly avoiding the woman's spear and sticking to the woman's body one after another. Once the talismans were stuck to the woman's body, she would immediately lose her bodily functions. Soon, The woman's body was covered in talismans. Masters, you're the best. You've finally subdued this woman, Scott Lee exclaimed in surprise. Katie's mouth was also wide open, her face filled with disbelief. Eastern magic casters. Are you really Eastern magic casters? Lang Sun heaved a long sigh of relief. Fortunately, these two old China men were here. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. However, Dao Er and Dao San did not look too good. This is only temporary. We'd better change places. What? Why? Dao Er and Dao San did not explain, because there was no need for them to. They had already discovered that the talismans on the woman's body were being ignited one by one. Soon, the woman would regain her freedom. Master, get rid of her while she can't move, Scott Lee shouted anxiously. Dao Er shook his head. These talismans are called invulnerable talismans. They can subdue enemies but not hurt them. To hurt someone, you have to break the talismans first. We've used so many talismans, and only managed to trap her for a moment. She's not to be underestimated. Then what should we do? What should we do? Of course we should find an empty place to fight. What else do you think? Boom! At that moment, Dao San had already destroyed the wall opposite them, revealing a huge hole. Leave from here. Is this considered a prison break? Lang Sun asked hesitantly. Katie rolled her eyes. Or should we stay here and wait for death? In the end, they left through the hole. A few minutes later, the talismans on the woman burned away, and she regained her freedom. Chapter 2402. Hi Chen, are you asleep? David called Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao rubbed his eyes and then pinched his forehead. Yes. If there's nothing else, I wish you a good night. What if there's something? David asked. If it's drinking, you can wait until tomorrow. I never wake you up in the middle of the night to drink. Okay, so you're in trouble? Or Kate? It's not me or Kate. It's LAPD, David said. Of course, it's my trouble too. Oh, I remember you're the deputy chief of LAPD now, right? I forgot to congratulate you. I'm not here to ask for a blessing. I'll give you a present too. I'm not asking for a present either. Then what do you want? Can you come to the police station? Did you accept some evil organization's blackmail and set up a trap in the police station? Then the moment I step in, you'll blow me up along with the police station? That's not funny at all. Okay, I'll go now. Chen Zhao knew that David wouldn't call him at this time, if it wasn't something important. After arriving at the police station, Chen Zhao asked along the way, and found David in the surveillance room. Hey David, you're here alone. Are you watching something that's not suitable for children? David turned around and glanced at Chen Zhao. It's indeed inappropriate. Come take a look. So exciting. Intrigued, Chen Zhao sat beside David. He'd been looking forward to what kind of exciting scenes David would show him. In the end, David played a battle between spiritualists. Isn't there anything more exciting? I'm a bit disappointed. Chen Zhao pursed his lips. But where did you get the video? It happened in the detention center an hour ago, David said. No one else saw it, right? Chen Zhao asked, frowning. I rushed here immediately, and forbade anyone else from coming in. As he spoke, David pressed the delete button, and erased the recording completely. I don't know where that woman came from, but she kidnapped my subordinate, Ronson, and forced him to bring her into the detention center. Then, she attacked one of the cells that held 4 prisoners. But the people in that cell didn't seem to be ordinary people. Then there was a conflict between the two sides, and the woman was controlled. Then, the 4 prisoners and Ronson escaped through the hole that was blasted open. Their current whereabouts are unknown. What do you want me to do? Capture all of them? Or secretly execute him? I don't care about the others, but Ronson is my subordinate. I must ensure his safety. Okay, which direction did they run to? I don't know. Aren't you a spiritualist? Wouldn't you know once you do a divination? Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. I'm not a prophet, nor do I know astrology. Anyway, this is what you're good at. You definitely have a way. Chen Zhao rubbed his forehead. Okay, I'll think of something. I'll go to the detention center and see if I can find any clues. David accompanied Chen Zhao to the detention center. All the prisoners had already been transferred. It was empty now. Chen Zhao arrived at the scene. The iron bars of the cell were completely deformed and broken. One of the spiritualists should have the ability to control metal. Isn't he like Magneto in the movies? Similar ability, but definitely not as strong. Because the surveillance footage was from the two sides of the corridor, Chen Zhao didn't see the battle in the cell. Right now there was still a trace of magic in the cell. Just then, Chen Zhao saw a corner of yellow paper on the ground. Chen Zhao picked up the yellow paper and studied it carefully. It should be the talisman paper that the Chinese Taoists used. Chinese Taoists? Dragon Tiger Mountain? Give me a file on the people locked here. Take it. Chen Yiba Lu Haisheng. Chen Zhao looked at their files. They were both from Yingtan City, Jiangxi Province, Wuxia. Dragon Tiger Mountain's Celestial Masters sect was in Jiangxi. Were these two from Dragon Tiger Mountain's Celestial Masters sect? How is it? Any clues? Yes. Do you need my help? Are you going to be my burden? Are you serious? David stomped his feet in anger. Okay, I'll go out and take a look. I'll contact you if I find anything. Chen Zhao walked out of the hole. It led to the underground parking lot. Unfortunately, there weren't any surveillance cameras here. Chen Zhao picked up his phone and called Yanghua. Yanghua, do you know Chen Yiba and Lu Haisheng? What? Chen Zhao, what did you do to my two seniors? If I tell you that they're in my hands now, what will you do? What do you want? Yanghua asked angrily. Okay, I'm just kidding, but something really happened to your two seniors, Chen Zhao said. Not long ago, someone attacked LAPD. I have a friend who works there, so I was called over to help. But now your two seniors are missing. Are you serious? You're not kidding? Okay, I'm kidding. Bye. As soon as Chen Zhao hung up, Yanghua called back immediately. Chen Zhao, say it clearly. You don't believe me, right? What else do you want me to say? You're saying that my two senior brothers are missing? Do you have a way to find them? Where are you now? LAPD's underground parking lot. I'm coming now. Yanghua was very worried now. He called Dao 2 and Dao 3, but no one answered. He believed most of it. Moreover, he was the one who sent them to the police station. If something happened to them, he would feel guilty for the rest of his life. Yanghua hurried to the LAPD's underground parking lot. Chen Zhao was indeed here. Chen Zhao, what's going on? That's it. I told you everything I know on the phone. Our Dragon Tiger Mountain Celestial Masters sect has a special sensing spell. We can determine each other's location. Then what are you waiting for? Hurry and sense where your two seniors are, or which direction they're in. They're purposely hiding their location. I can't sense them. So you don't have any ideas? Not completely, but it's best to have something they've used before. That way, I can use the Reliance spell to find them. Will this work? Chen Zhao took out the corner of the small yellow talisman. Yes, there's Dao 3's aura on it. It's a bit weak, but it can still be used. Then use this to find them. Let's begin. Nine Heavens Divine Emperor, that you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.